Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for coming and thank you so much for having me here. Just to introduce myself, as Calvi mentioned, I am the past founder, or I was the founder of Illuminate Business, and I was the past CEO, and now I'm a freshman at Wharton, and I've been here for a few months, so I might not be able to offer as much insight on what it's like here as I would maybe in the future, but today, I will be able to answer more of your questions focused around the college admissions process, especially with the early decision deadline coming up. So, um, yeah, if you have any questions, you could just drop them in the chat and I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, to get it started, maybe one question was what was it like to get into Wharton, I guess?
Yeah, well, getting into Wharton, it was definitely very exciting. Wharton's definitely ranked pretty high for business schools, and I just was excited to see what opportunities I might have here, especially with all the extracurricular opportunities here, as well as just access to different networks, especially with post-graduation. And I do see a question in the chat that's asking how I decided that UPenn was right for me. I definitely kind of focused around I was focused about the Wharton in general because I definitely knew that I was like pretty fixed on the fact that I wanted to go into business, and I liked the whole I did tour the UPenn campus before, and I just liked seeing how that it was a nice mix of like social. People are definitely out, and it's not like everyone's just studying all day, and it's also very rich in academic opportunity and just resources in general. Yeah, I'll just start going through these questions in the chat. So I see a question that's asking what kind of extracurriculars I prioritized. So I specifically kind of went the more social impact route. I did work with nonprofits. Did just hold a lot of leadership positions at nonprofits as well. And just through like the extracurriculars, I kind of did have a common theme. How I kind of like focused on like trying to bring resources to kind of address deficits or opportunity gaps in society. Like I did run like a book drive for um, kids who are living in like underprivileged neighborhoods who may not have access to books. I like ran like a few or I worked with a nonprofit organization that addressed teen financial literacy gap. And yeah, like I worked with like another one that worked with the computer science. So it's like a lot of like these opportunity gap based organizations. And the one thing I just generally suggest with extracurriculars is like if you have like a common theme or you could show like a common interest throughout these extracurriculars, it makes it easier for you whenever you're writing your essays. And it also shows that admission, like it shows like your personal spike. Because when people think of a spike, they think you have to be crazy impressive, like you have to win some like national competition. And while that's very helpful, if you just highlight yourself as an individual applicant through your essays and just kind of portray yourself as a like more niche student, even if it's like it may not seem like that, you could kind of tweak the way that you're wording your extracurriculars or the way that you're just working, like describing how you kind of got into these extracurriculars in your essays. And that just shows that admissions officers more about yourself. And it just makes you stand out a lot more than if you just approach your extracurriculars in a more like generic way. And the next question, may I ask what's the biggest contributor to your application? Um, or was it like stats or extracurriculars? So I think, in my opinion, I think stats are just what kind of opens the door or like gets you through like the first kind of like threshold. Um, and from there, I think extracurriculars are what kind of take you over the top. So stats, like you definitely do want to aim for like that like threshold. I don't really know the exact numbers. There's probably definitely some stats online or like metrics, but that's not to say that you can't get in with a lower like standardized test score or a lower GPA. It just makes it a little harder. Like you really have to overcompensate for that in your extracurriculars. But like that's not to say that having low stats means you can't get in. but I think extracurriculars are what I really focused on once my stats were at like the threshold that I think they needed to be. And that just made it a lot easier for me to kind of just focus on one aspect at a time rather than having to like have like one particular like factor just really like balance out the rest of my application, if that makes sense. And what extracurriculars I recommend for a sophomore in high school. So I like there's no specific extracurricular, and I don't want to recommend a specific one because that's like your application is unique to yourself. And if you're not passionate about your extracurricular, if it's not something that's actually important to you, then like writing about that in your essays and standing out as an applicant, it just gets so much harder. And like at least like framing yourself, like making a story out of what you're doing, what your extracurriculars are, like just making your like having that specific kind of edge to yourself is what's going to make yourself stand out. So I'm not going to, there's no like specific extracurricular that will get you into UPenn, but like there's like, I would definitely recommend passion projects because that's definitely something that's like, that could really bring out what you're interested in. That just helps the admissions officers like really learn more about yourself and what your particular interests are. And for passion projects, it's basically like taking your passion, something that you're passionate about, something that you're really interested in, and it could be combined with your career interests or like intended like major, but it doesn't really necessarily have to be. And it's basically from there, like just through your passion project, you kind of you like the whole point is that you can make a lot of impact if you're actually passionate about what you are kind of pursuing. And that also just gives you like a better chance to have a good essay out of that and just stand out as an applicant. Because if it's something that you're passionate about and you're combining with different interests, there's a good chance that there might not be someone who's doing the same thing. And I have a question about the difficulty of classes so far. So if I'm being honest, it's honestly pretty easy right now. I have a lot of intro classes, so my classes have been quite like baseline. Like I honestly, some of my classes are easier than they were in high school, and I've only been here for a few months though, and like as I said mentioned before, my classes are all pretty intro level. So I don't want to like jinx that, or I don't want to say that like all classes here are gonna be easy, but it also depends. I guess if where you're like what you're like really with which kind of classes you're really taking, because like the Wharton classes in particular, they aren't super hard. And like if you're taking like I've heard from other people though, like if you're taking like a math class like calculus here, it's definitely a lot harder. I'm in stats, so it's definitely a lot easier, but it just varies from class to class. But like in general, it's not too bad. And what's my major and minor? So at Wharton, basically everyone who's in Wharton graduates with a Bachelor of Science in Economics. And the minor is like our concentrations. So we don't technically declare our concentrations freshman year because we don't really take concentration specific classes. Like we're not really allowed to. But I'm planning on concentrating in finance. That's the plan for now. But again, it's pretty subject to change, especially as I will take more classes and kind of figure out what I'm interested in. And I have a question about what's better for you, Penn, early decision or regular decision. So this is completely up to you. If you think that UPenn's a school for you, and if you feel strongly about that, like if you got into UPenn, you wouldn't choose anyone else, then I would say early decision's better because you have because that shows your commitment to the school. But if you aren't like that fixed in UPenn, you don't want to be committed to a school that you don't feel that like connected to. So if you really want to get into UPenn, then I would say early decision. And if you think that there's another school you might be interested in, or you're just not particularly sure about getting into like if you want to go to UPenn, then I would say regular decision is better because of the idea of just being committed to a school that you might not end up actually wanting to go to. And my SAT score, ACT, yeah, sure. My SAT was a 1530. And I didn't take the ACT, but yeah, that was my SAT score. And I have a question about leadership positions in high school. I definitely think leadership positions in high school clubs are definitely a significant as long as you're making impact. So if you just hold a title of like a small club that doesn't actually do anything, or like it doesn't have any other like achievements under your belt as a leader in this club, then you might like want to like branch out and find something else that you might be able to do more, have more impact in, or just work, maybe run some project in your school, or do something that would actually show a considerable impact. Like, for example, like if you run like the service club at your school and you're not doing anything right now, but like if you're a leader, like you could show your leadership potential, and like if you host like a community-wide fundraiser or like run this whole event, then that shows that like you're like you have initiative to run things, you have the leadership like acumen, you have like all these other skills. So I definitely think that leadership positions are pretty significant as long as you have like the achievements to kind of back it up. What I wrote in my awards section. I had a few like awards. I did do like I was the editor in chief of my school newspaper, so I had a few like journalism awards. I did go to states a few years for our journalism competition, and I did get a few awards on like articles I wrote for our school newspaper. So that was honestly like the bulk of my award section, and I kind of threw in the National Merit Scholarship. I won. I was like a semifinalist for that, and ended up getting the scholarship in the spring. And I also had one of the AP awards. I forgot which one it was, but like it was small things like that. If you have like other like academic awards from like your local community, or like anything really works here. And I have a question about how many colleges I applied to. So because I applied to UPenn early decision, I only decided to apply to like one other college that was early action, and that was UMich. And that was just because I thought it would be easier. For me, it was just more time efficient, and it would just made more sense for me to apply to like the rest of my safeties after I knew about UPenn, because I'd still have like 15 days to crank out some more applications. And I just had my other applications for like my target and other reach schools prepared in that time. And I was just pushing like the safeties and other like rough targets to the side, just so because I knew if I had a good amount of time to like finish up those applications, since I already had a lot of like the base like supplemental essays down. Because at some point, once you get like a lot of that, like if you write a lot of supplemental essays, a lot of times they just overlap, and you could kind of like take a few of the ideas, and it's like the process gets so much quicker once you kind of get the hang of it with all the essays. Um, so yeah, I only ended up applying to two colleges. And I have a question about opportunities, perhaps ones that would undergraduates that really makes UPenn stand out a lot to you, or what like makes me enjoy it a lot. Um, I think the main thing is really just you have so much like networking opportunities. Like you like just be like having like good relationships with your TA. There's a lot of like mentorship or mentorship opportunities here. Like at Wharton, I have a mentor, and like if I ever need help with anything or have any questions, I could always just reach out to her. I have a good relationship with my TA for a few of my classes, and it's just you have so many opportunities to like meet a lot of people who have like similar interests. And there's just so many like alumni networking opportunities as well, and you just have so much access to like all these like pre-professional resources. And there's a lot of like undergraduate clubs as well that just give you so many opportunities to like get like a head start, or just learn more about different fields. Like there's a lot of like finance, investing clubs, there's consulting clubs. Like granted, they are really hard to get into. They have a crazy low acceptance rates, but like in general, like you just have a lot of opportunities to get involved with like a lot of small things, and also just like get to know so many people who could help you out in the future. And like you just get make so many connections here. Do I think AP history classes are important for business majors? Um, so in general, if you're talking about like AP credit wise, like they don't take AP credit at all for history classes. And in general, like they're gonna make you take like liberal arts classes at Wharton, especially like if like that's just a general requirement. And AP history classes in general, like I think they're just really good for teaching you how to think critically. And in general, for like all majors or like, and like no matter how technical the major is, it's just good to have a good variety in like your education and make sure that you kind of have a well-rounded education in that sense. And the liberal arts is actually a really great way to just have like different thinking skills. Like you have different critical thinking and analysis and synthesis skills that you're getting out of like these AP history classes. So I definitely think you learn like really important skills through these AP history classes. But like I don't think you necessarily like feel like you shouldn't feel obligated to take them for a business major. I just think that like they're good to have like in your back pocket. What did I write about in the Why Us essay? So I wrote, oh, like this really like varies from person to person, but like I wrote more about I kind of connected back, like I would write a little bit about some extracurricular that I did, and then I would like connect that back to like maybe something that Wharton would have similar to that. And I indicated interest in like social responsibility as a concentration. And I also talked about like combining that with maybe like management because I did had to have a lot of leadership experience, and I also worked with nonprofits. I also ran a nonprofit. So I was able to kind of combine that and talk about joining like some of like the undergraduate clubs or different like courses that I thought would be really interesting or really relevant to what I've kind of done so far. So my number one advice for YS essays is kind of connecting back things that you already show in your application back to yourself and showing your interests, how Wharton would or like UPenn in general would serve you with those interests or things that you've already done so far. Did I tour UPenn before applying? Yes, I did tour UPenn, and the campus is pretty safe. If you stay like on campus, it's definitely like quite safe. Obviously, like it's gonna have like some like we have homeless people on campus from time to time. There's some robberies, but like they're generally like on the fringes of like out campus, like towards off campus. And I would say it's pretty safe, to be honest. And we like our security is it's very or very competent. And look, I've never really felt like I was in danger at any point. As long as you like really stay on campus, you should be fine. And if you're ever off campus, like there's like the SEPTA train if you ever want to go like into the city. So you definitely have, and we also like Penn Transit. So you have transportation options. So you don't have to necessarily walk everywhere if you ever feel like going into an area that's not the safest. How I approached the three supplemental essays. I honestly, I would suggest using the college essay guy. His resources helped me so much with just organizing my thoughts into college essays, and he has like guides for all of like the supplemental essays, I believe. And he kind of just teaches you how to like organize your thoughts and just approach the essay. And like I mentioned, there's like the YS essay and I think there was one about community. So I just talked about a community that I was particularly like interested in or something that um I like kind of worked with and then how I would kind of expand on that at like UPenn. And that one was more like it was less academic focused, I think, and it was more just like about myself. And then like for my thank you essay, I just or thank you letter I wrote to one of the nonprofit founders I that for one of the nonprofits that I worked with because I just think she was like very she was like a great role model and she was the one who ran the nonprofit with for women in computer science. So I was just able to tie that into my interests with like expanding access to people who may be like marginalized in certain industries or like in certain like fields. And yeah, that's basically like my like general approach to the supplemental essays. Tips for getting a good SAT score. I would say, see, it's really like varies from like person to person, and like what helps one person won't really help, it won't necessarily help everyone. But for me, I honestly didn't really study too much. Like I didn't take any classes, I just really focused on, I got the SAT Black Book and I just learned all like the strategies. And I just like that book because I was able to like see what the thought process of like approaching these questions were. And um I would definitely recommend that. It's called the SAT Black Book of Strategies. If you look it up on Amazon, it's probably one of the first things that really pop up. Um, I don't know when the SAT is changing. I know that it's changing soon, but from the old SAT, that's like I don't think it should be any different, but like I just used the black book and I just learned all the strategies from that. And yeah, that's like my main approach. Like I didn't really do much else. I did do Khan Academy for a bit and I took like like I did take the practice tests. I just think the practice tests were pretty helpful in just accessing like figuring out where I'm weaker and figuring out where I need to focus more and also just getting like a hang of how the tests work. So that's just basically like my approach to the SAT and like what worked for me isn't gonna work for everyone. Everyone's really different. So take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, that was just my experience. Explain more about the Wharton program. Um, like what specifically? I mean, I could like I would say like a general overview. Like there's just everyone like there's a couple of dual degree programs. But in general, like everyone has that Bachelor of Science in economics, and then there's like the concentrations and like there's a whole bunch of different concentrations, which is basically just like a couple extra classes that you're taking in a specific field. So like for example, if I take like if I have like a finance concentration, I'll have like four like finance specific courses that are like just specific to my concentration. And then that's just like another thing to have. So like if when you're applying for jobs, it's like shows where your maybe like your area of like expertise might be or like area of like more experience. So like you kind of just have that place to kind of go through. Or like you just have like an extra, it's basically a minor. So you have like that little extra like concentration or like area that's like you're more specialized in a specific area. Tips on time management with extracurriculars and schoolwork. Um, I just think the main thing with time management is making sure that you are just, I feel like the main thing is just being like productive and making sure that you're allocating time accordingly. A lot of times like it's easy to think that you don't have time, but then like if you really think about it, you actually do have time. You're just using it on things that you may not be as productive. So my number one in high school, I would generally just make sure my phone was away from me. I would get my schoolwork done out of the way as soon as I could and then I would work on extracurriculars for like the rest of my day. And I think that was just what worked for me. That I just liked getting my schoolwork out of the way first. And um that was that was just the easiest way for me to make sure that I was prioritizing school. And then I also had time for extracurriculars for whatever rest of the time I had. And with extracurriculars, a lot of times it'd be things that I could just do from home. So like I would be able to like unwind with like TV and then do my extracurriculars in the background. So that's just how I was able to like balance everything out. And again, it's going to vary from person to person. Like every different obligations. So it's not really going to work for everyone, but that was just how I approached it. And UPenn does have an interview process. I did have an interview. I think everyone in early decision, or at least most people do have an interview. I think very few people don't. And I'm not sure about regular decision. I think most, or I think there's there's definitely still interviews going on during the regular decision round. I don't know if everyone gets them, but or if a lot of people get them, but like if you don't get them, I don't think that it really affects your application. Like they take that into account. And do you think that AP score slash classes made a difference in your applications? So AP score specifically, they don't care about. They don't care about what you got in your AP score, like what you got in the AP test. But classes, they like seeing that you have like a rigorous like course load. They want to see that you're challenging yourself. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to take AP classes. If your school doesn't offer them, like they know what your school has and they see how rigorous your course load is relative to the school that you're going to because they know what like academic opportunities you have at your school. So no one's really at an unfair advantage. And that's just like the main thing. Like you just it's not necessarily just AP classes in general, just taking challenging classes from what your school offers is what's going to make you stand out and what's going to show that admission officers that you're really challenging yourself. did I do any internships or pre-colleges? And I did not do any internships or pre-college programs. So I don't really have much else to say on that. But there we did have a internship event on how to find an internship. So if you send us an email, I think we'd definitely be happy to send you a recording of that.
Yeah,
And
sorry. Yeah, I actually did an internship and it was like a really good one. And I really looked rigorously for internships. So I can tell you about how to like kind of find them. But basically, it's a overview of it is just very simply using your contacts that you have already, or just honestly, like simple Google search goes a long way. Some of these most of the internships you can apply to are free, and a lot, especially a lot of the internships, not pre-college programs, are free, and some of them are paid, which is amazing for high school students. And it looks really good on our college apps too. I think that I did the Bank of America Student Leaders Program, which is definitely one I recommend. But yeah, it's really selective, but it's a really good one to do.
yeah, thank you for that. And um, so like I'm just gonna keep reading through these questions since we are running out of time. But how, oh, if I did a research project, what section does it go in my application form? I believe that would be your activities list, just so you could speak on the research project. But if you ever have extra information you want to like, if you think that needs to be in your application, otherwise it won't like really do your project justice, there's always additional details to kind of elaborate on it. Or if you kind of write about it in one of your supplemental essays, then that could also just give your admissions officer more insight on why you did it. Again, learn more about you. And a lot of times with the essays and like all these like small things, you're just making it's like peeling back like layers. Like they're just trying to get to know who you are and they're trying to figure you out. So you really just want to you just want to show them as much as you possibly can so that they have enough information to kind of figure out whether you're not you're a good like applicant for them. So we have another question on what's one thing I would do differently during high school to increase my chances into getting into UPenn. So something that I like really regret from high school is that I didn't start like exploring my interests right away. I honestly didn't really do anything until like the end of sophomore year, beginning of junior year. And then by the beginning of like junior year, I felt really like pressured and like really rushed because I was balancing like all the like a harder course load, especially since this was I went to junior year right after like the whole year of doing school over Zoom. So it's just like I was just being like thrown into everything all at once. And it was definitely a stressful time for me. So like definitely I would really recommend just exploring your interest right away as soon as you get into high school, try different projects, like run things right away. And because from there you could just figure out what you are interested in, what you like to do. And if once you find something, you could continue pursuing it and you'll just have a wider variety of things and you'll just know like what you want to do and what like you want to just do in your free time. And it just makes it easier when you're also like getting into like your essays, writing like and you're having like your whole like extracurricular list and you have a more coherent kind of idea of like what your identity really is in terms of like what you're going to be writing down on paper. How I approach thinking
So
of,
I think
oh
we
sorry.
have like, oh, sorry on that. Yeah, I think we have like around 6 minutes, so maybe like three or four more questions
Okay.
possibly.
Yeah. I'm just gonna look through these and see if there's something that I didn't really touch on. So I have a question on the college guy. Yeah, it's called the collegeessayguide.com. We could possibly get like a mass email sent out with all like the resources that I might have mentioned in this. So I could get that sent out later, but it's the collegeessayguide.com. And yeah, he just had a whole bunch of resources on like basically everything. So I would definitely recommend checking that out. How many letters of rec do you need in total? Um, for pen, I think it's like you only need, I think you need two from like, I think we need one from a counselor, one from a teacher. And then there's one, I believe that's optional, that's from like anyone. It could be like a non like anyone that you've really worked with. So I chose the founder of the nonprofit that I worked with. And that was just so I could get a different side of me shown to like the admission officers. Um, what business clubs I joined. I did BPA, but honestly, I wasn't super involved in it. That's something I actually do regret not taking more seriously. I wish I kind of just worked more with that because even like if I didn't win, I just think that would have just helped me in general. Just learn more about different business fields and just learn like I just get like a lot more experience just from competing like that and like it's very like niche, so you could just learn like about really specific like technical things. Um, let me see. I did not play any sports in high school, and it's not really necessary to play a sport. But like if you're good at it, then that definitely like wouldn't hurt you. Um, did I use any college consulting services? I didn't really like use a college consulting one to like actually like work through my application, but I did like and like right before it was due, I quickly just sent it over to one called nextadmit.com, and it's a student run business and it's definitely I would recommend it. They gave me some like pretty like good edits on my overall application, and it wasn't crazy expensive. But it wasn't like super like in depth, and it wasn't like as like it was definitely it was students, so they weren't like really professionals doing this. So I think it would get you like a good baseline if you feel like your application is kind of where it's at, but it's not like super like as in depth as it could be. I might answer like maybe like two more questions, or maybe I'll just wrap it up with the one more question. Um, so for the opportunities that Wharton offers, so just look through the website and you'll find like a whole list of like the clubs, you'll find all the course lists, you'll just find so many things. Just go through all the tabs, like just go through a really deep search and you'll find a lot of things and just organize your research in a way that you could kind of just group things up and you'll just work them into your essay. And like mentioning a course, like that definitely something specific to ensure that you actually did look through, and if you could connect that course of like syllabus back to your interest, that's definitely something that will like make like that would just help them also understand what you're really looking for out of Wharton.
Yeah, I think that was really, really helpful. What would be like one final piece of advice that you would kind of give to everyone in high school that's going through this right now?
Yeah, well, the college admissions process is definitely tough and it's very stressful. So I'd say be nice to yourself. Don't over apply to schools. I sometimes it's like really tempting to just apply to like 30 schools, but I would strongly suggest against that. I would say that you'd want to apply to a good mix of like reach, target, and safety schools. You'd like want to make sure that you have options. And also, I just think they should be open to all your options as well when it comes to college. Sometimes you might think that you might hate a school, but like sometimes you just go on campus and realize that it has whatever you want. And yeah, I think that's like the main thing. And in general, with the admissions process, I'd say stay true to yourself and make sure that you're letting the officers kind of just figure out what you are about. Like you're trying to sell yourself to them, but you also want to make sure that they know the real you. Because if you're trying to be like an artificial, a curated version, like it's just what everyone's going to be trying to do, and you want to stand out. You don't want to be like everyone else. So in just getting through this process.
Thank you so much. That was honestly really helpful for someone that's also going through this process right now. So I think with that, we will end it there. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you to everyone that attended today. Yeah, I think that's all.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was really great talking to everyone here. Yeah, if you ever have any questions, you could always email me and I'd be happy to help with anything. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.